Welcome to Loremen, the podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. I'm James Shakeshaft.
And I'm James's priest and confessor, Alasdair Beckett-King. Our first tale is really a very famous legend from Washington. Alright, I'm about to tell you an extremely famous story. I think it might be because we're supposed to do obscure stories, but this is extremely famous in County Durham.
Right.
And it is the story of... Don't sneer at that. You don't realise how famous this story is.
Okay.
It's the story of the Lambton Worm.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard the story of the Lambton Worm?
It does ring a bell.
From when I've told you about it in the past, possibly.
Maybe. It sounds... Is there like a Lambton pie or something? Is there some sort of food? Or has it just got lamb in it that makes me think of food?
I think that's it. There is no Lambton pie.
Okay.
Do not look for a Lambton pie
because it's made out of worms. It is disgusting.
The story of the Lambton Worm is incredibly popular in the northeast, and it's one of those things that, in fact, you don't realise isn't famous across the whole world. And that will come up in the story.
Right.
Our belief that this is really famous. The story begins with young Lambton, who is the son of Lord Lambton, a local nobleman, and he was what is in the northeast referred to as a bad lad, a reet wrong'un. Yeah,
The kid,
young Lambton. He's a young adult, a teenager, a classic naughty, rebellious teenager. And the story takes place in Washington D.C., by which I mean Durham County.
Oh.
An area called Washington, which is no longer in Durham, but I think was part of Durham at this time.
Right.
So it's somewhere between Newcastle, Sunderland and Durham, if you can imagine that, the triumvirate of the three great cities of the northeast.
Mm.
Yeah, there's three. They make a triangle.
Are they all in a line on the coast?
They're not in a line. Sunderland's Sunderland and Newcastle are, Durham's not.
Okay.
So we're in Washington. And on Sunday morning, when everyone else was going to church, young Lambton instead went out fishing in the Wear, which is the river that runs through Durham. Yeah.
A weir?
The Wear, W-E-A-R. It's the name of the river.
That must be confusing for the water people.
I think there is a weir in the river.
In Wear. The Weir.
I don't think we call it that. What is a weir?
A weir is like, I'm not sure what its use is. I don't know if it's to slow down a river or something. It's like a half dam, I think. A weir. Weir. Imagine Peter Weir at the Weir. Being weird.
I don't know whether there's a weir in the Wear. I may never know.
Well, it's impossible to ask anyone. They'd laugh you out. Is there a weir? Is there a weir here?
Luckily, nobody in Durham talks like that.
The weir is over there.
It's in Durham. It's got two syllables, so it's weir. So it's proper weir in the River Wear.
How would you say? Where's the weir?
Where's the weir?
Where's the weir?
You haven't even let me get to the inciting incident in this story before you've already mocked the Durham accent, which is going to come up again. So he goes fishing in the Wear, and every time he catches something he's not happy with, he curses the day, he curses the river, he curses possibly God himself, I can't remember. Oh. And the people going to church are listening and going, on a Sunday morning, swearing like that at the river. Terrible behaviour.
Swearing like that at the river.
And then he pulls up a reet ugly fish, a worm, in fact, the ugliest thing he's ever seen. And he says that it looks like he's pulled up the devil himself to an old man, and an old man going past goes, oh yeah. Because the people recording this felt like it was necessary to have a witness for that bit of the story.
The old man going past says, sorry, what's that, mate?
It's devil. Shouldn't you be in church? Shut up. So he goes, oh, this is horrible. And he can't be bothered taking it home, so he throws it down a well. That's the beginning of the story. At this point, I'm going to, and this is to my great embarrassment, I'm going to have to sing the next bit of the story.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Not just your embarrassment.
I know. I can't sing, so we might cut this. So the story is best known in the Northeast because it was immortalised in pantomime in the 19th century. And I feel like I've seen some of the podcast stats, so I know we have some listeners who aren't from the UK, so I think I have to explain what a pantomime is. It's like if you took Commedia dell'arte crossed with like Weimar Germany cabaret, like the film Cabaret, crossed with an offensive 70s sitcom, but for children. So
with throwaway sweets.
You get free sweets. So it's a bit like vaudeville, like in a musical form of entertainment. Huge in the 19th century, still popular now, but not that popular.
It's more, nowadays it's more a vessel for people that used to be on Gladiators.
Yeah, and soap opera actors in the sad tail end of their career.
I actually, when I was working as a cameraman, we did a bunch of interviews at a launch of like some panto group that did loads of different ones, and all the stars were there dressed in costume. I can't remember where, in somewhere in London, and they're all there. Who's the Gangs guy? Ross Kemp.
Ross Kemp
was there, dressed as like Baron Hardup or something. Kim and Aggie.
Oh yeah. As the Ugly Sisters. That's rather offensive to me. Yeah, but they are also awful people.
And they probably were wicked in some. They were maybe they were actually no, because they did a cleaning program. They were probably fairies, like cleaning up fairies. Mickey and Jane Rooney.
Oh,
I think his wife's name was Jane. Definitely Mickey Rooney.
Wow,
and his wife.
I mean, he's a proper star.
I think that is the most famous person I've ever met.
You have name dropped all over my story.
Yeah, go on.
To say.
Sorry.
And I've got to be better than Mickey Rooney, dressed as Buttons. So, from the Lambton Worm song, which is sung in my school many a time.
That's what I was trying to distract from, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still going to have to sing it, and I might, if it doesn't work, I'll just read it. The Lambton Worm song. On Sunday morn young Lambton went a-fishing in the weir, and catched a fish upon his hook, he thought it very queer. But what na kind of fish it was, young Lambton couldn't tell. He wouldn't be fashed to carry it yem, so he hoyed it doon a well. Yeah, so that's the bit that I've just told you. Hoyed, of course, is throwed. Wouldn't be fashed is couldn't be bothered. These are all words that are still used in the northeast. He wouldn't be fashed to carry it yem, so he hoyed it doon a well. And then the chorus, which is the bit everybody loves, is Wheesht, lads, had your gobs, I'll tell you all an awful story. Wheesht, lads, had your gobs, and I'll tell you about the worm. And it tells you something about the Northeast, that the chorus of a song has to be, guys, just shut up for a minute. I'm trying to tell you about the worm.
And they have to repeat that twice.
Yeah, exactly. Just shut up, please. It's a panto. I've written a panto. Shut up. That's the whole chorus in between every verse. So, that's been clear. He couldn't be bothered to carry it home, so he hoyed it down a well. He couldn't be bothered to carry it home, so he hoyed it down a well. What happens next is, two things happen. The story splits. Lambton goes off to fight in foreign wars. So Lambton reforms himself and goes off and joins the Crusades.
Right.
Because going away to kill Muslims is considered an awful lot better than fishing on a Sunday. The terrible crime of fishing on the wrong day.
And swearing at a river.
It's much better than going off to just kill people overseas in the Holy Land. So that's what he did. Meanwhile, the worm, according to the song, and this, I think this is some of the best lyricism. I'm just going to read this. Some of the best lyricism you're going to hear. But the worm got fat and grad and grad and grad an awful size. That's 3 times it grew. So it grew and grew and grew in the sweet water of the well.
Sorry, Northeast and lyrics. Calls to mind PJ and Duncan from Let's Get Ready to Rumble. They boast...
A.K.A. Anton Deck for younger listeners.
Yeah. They boast that they have so many lyrics, they're frightened to use them. The next line, so many lyrics. We've got them in stores.
Oh, those crazy cats.
Nice ref.
To this day, people in the Northeast still laugh. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. So the worm got big enough that it could crawl out of the well, and it coiled itself around a stone in the middle of the weir. And at night time, it would come out. It would suck the milk out of cows. It had 9 holes down the sides of its face. That's a ugly detail. And it would eat sheep and bairns, which means kids, if they're in their beds.
Oh God!
And my favourite version of the story is a very milk obsessed worm from the Monthly Chronicle of North County Law and Legend, 1888. We have the phrase, it sucked sucked cows of their milky treasure. Which I really like. I think that's lovely.
Milk.
AKA milk. to apply the adjective milky to milk, it's almost tautology. So the main story was recorded in 1820 by Robert Surtees. which is a properly good northeastern name, in the history and antiquities of the county Palatine of Durham. The worm started to terrorise people, and the Lambton came...
After eating kids, it's
So
that's
it
part of
ramped
the terror.
up.
Yeah.
They learned to sate it by giving it the milk of 9 kye, or 9 cows. So that they'd bring it into the courtyard, and a massive horse trough would be filled with the milk of 9 cows every day.
What?
And it would come in there and it would drink the milk, and then it would go back. And now it was so big that instead of calling itself around the rock, it would call itself around either Worm Hill, which is in Washington and is still called Worm Hill to this day, which is a very mysterious hill. There's a website dedicated to a weird geography, and it's a very flat area, and then there's just a hill in the middle of nowhere, so nobody knows what it is. And it was either that or it was Penshire Hill, which is what most people now believe. And Penshire Hill is an absolutely massive, massive hill that you can see from most of Durham. So it probably wasn't that hill. Otherwise, it would be enormous. But these days, we say that he coiled himself 9 times around Penshire Hill, or 7 times. The numbers change. So apparently, if anyone took the tiniest amount of milk, like if one of the farmhands took a little bit of milk out of the worm's pail, he would get so angry that he would thrash his tail and tear up trees with his tail and smash them down. So naturally, many knights errant came and tried to kill the worm. And what the worm would do is they would wrap and coil themselves around the man and crush them to death. We're in a pickle. Fortunately for the people of the northeast, the Lambton Worm is so famous that word of it reaches young Lambton in Palestine. And he realises he has to go home to put right what he did wrong by hoying it doon the well. So he comes straight back from Palestine, which I assume takes ages in those days. He's so sorry, and he apologises to his father. He says, I've got to be the one to kill the worm. First, though, he consults a local witch. And I'm going to read, because I really like the language of it, I'm going to read the 1888 version of it. Now there dwelt in a lonely hut an aged wife, wrinkled and yellow, with matted locks and piercing eyes, and rugged, screaming voice. Her commune was with the dead and the lost, and the outer darkness whence come pestilence, devilry, despair, and death to the children of men. To her the troubled chieftain went, that he might know the dreadful truth of all mischief, and perhaps how this ill should be undone. The witch was crooning over her smouldering fire of stolen wood, humming the not legally acquired wood, but stolen wood, humming the mystic chants of her darksome craft as she dozed above the dying embers.
She was crooning over the fire.
Yeah, the Bing Crosby maybe.
Yeah. But she's got a screech. What was her voice?
A screaming voice.
A screaming voice.
Which comes every time she speaks later on. She's
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. That's more Noddy Holder, though, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, you did. Yeah. So this is the scene when young Lambton arrives, and she says, "Here's what you do. You go to the armourer and you get a suit of armour made with spearheads embedded in the whole of the surface, so you're all spiky.
Clever.
And then you go and fight the worm on the rock in the middle of the River Wear, the rock from earlier, the one it used to coil around.
Right.
Oh, there's an important detail, which is that one of the other reasons that the other knights couldn't kill him is that it had the power of, quote, self-union, meaning you hack the tail off, it goes back together.
Oh.
And so it cannot be killed. So she gives him that advice, but it comes at a price. And that is when he's killed it, he has to kill the first living thing he sees on his way home.
Oh.
So he says, all right. And he makes an arrangement with his father, Lord Lambton, that he's going to blow his bugle horn 3 times when he's killed the worm. And then the father will send out his favourite dog, it says.
Oh.
Not his least favourite dog. He's going to send him his favourite dog, and he'll kill that dog. We can all assume that's going to work out perfectly.
Yeah.
He goes out on the River Wear, banging his shield, saying, come at me. And the worm attacks. And there is the fight of a lifetime. Just imagine if it was animated by a Japanese animator, how impressive this would look.
Oh, yeah.
The worm tries to coil around him, but of course the spikes dig into the worm's flesh, so every time he coils he gets weaker. And he hacks off its tail, and then he realises the wisdom of the witch, because it just washes away down the weir.
Oh, that's what you do?
That's why he's doing it in the middle. So he's hacking and all the parts wash away, and eventually he kills the worm. And I can't help but worry that just further down the River Wear it reforms, terrorising someone in Denmark when it washes out to sea. But anyway, as far as we know, it's completely dead. He blows on his bugle horn, and his dad is so pleased that he forgets about the dog plan and runs out to meet his son, and he sees his own father first.
Oh.
But he's not prepared to kill him, so he says, just get the dog and we'll kill the dog and we'll hope that works. They kill the dog. It doesn't work.
Still the favourite dog.
The favourite dog. They kill the favourite dog, and it doesn't work. And so the witch screeches, the witch reappears at this point to scream something about, that's it, that the Lambtons will be cursed for 9 generations.
Ooh.
And none of them will die in their beds. Which Lambton doesn't think is that bad because they are all knights, so it is quite normal for them. And a few people have tried to top this up or work out from this when it happened. But we know at least that the 9th generation Lambton died while crossing a bridge in this area. And at least 2 or 3 of the other Lambtons didn't die in their beds. So the curse seems to have carried on for many hundreds of years after this. So that is the story of the Lambton Worm. And now, in a last-ditch attempt to gain extra points, I want to add that it has a celebrity endorsement.
Ooh.
You didn't believe that the story of the Lambton Worm has spread far and wide, but I have a celebrity endorsement for you, which you're not going to be able to guess it, but when you hear it, you're going to think, of course! The celebrity endorsement for the Lambton Worm is Roxy Music's Brian Ferry. Of course!
Of course.
Roxy Music's Brian Ferry has recorded a version of the Lambton Worm song that I butchered for you earlier on.
Oh.
And it is dreadful. It is. I don't use the word god-awful that often. But how, you ask, how did such a not that famous story reach the ears of Roxy Music's Brian Ferry? He's from Washington, the area exactly where the story happens.
Right.
That's the reason he's heard it. But while looking around on YouTube, I also found this is not an endorsement, but it's definitely something that I will put a link to Brian Ferry's version in the show notes on the website, and I advise you to not listen to it because it's worse than mine. But there is a really nice animation. Someone called Carey Nutman, when he was 12 years old in the 1960s, started animating a version of it. And it took him about 10 years to finish it. And he's put it online with him singing it. And so it's a wonderful 8mm animation recorded in sort of and basically, it's the creepiest thing in the world. A child's animation of a story of a horrible monster. But it's absolutely wonderful. So Carey Nutman's version of it, I'll put a link to that, and I strongly recommend you have a look at that.
I blooming will.
I have to say, one of the things that I enjoy in a weird way about it is that the reet ugly worm that he catches looks very much like... Well, yeah, and it's been drawn by a 12-year-old, so...
But they're the people that draw them the most.
Yeah,
a 12-year-old boy is drawn...
I'm sure he was unaware of what he was drawing, but it's a wriggling on the end of a hook until he, as you would... doing well.
Right, yeah, I'll go and have a look at this 12-year-old's drawing of a...
Please do. Please do. If the internet were invented for anything. Let's maybe cut some of that. Let's trim that down a little.
To the scores.
Category the first. Naming. What do you mean? The Lambton Worm?
It's a worm, so there's a big...
yeah, but it's not like... So it's. I assume it is spelled W-O-R-M, but I assume it's worm in the sense of W-Y-R-M, which is the old word for, like, dragon. So it's not like a wiggly little worm. It's
a big worm.
Worm.
It's a worm.
Worm. Say it with a kind of bit of showmanship.
It's a worm with 9 holes. Worm. Is
it sounding any better?
You little worm.
Yeah, but imagine a big worm.
That's
essentially the pitch.
A sticky together big worm.
You know you don't like worms, yeah? What if one was big?
One was really big. How big? Big enough to go around a hill? Okay, yep. That's
like 7 times.
Is it a big hill?
It's a big hill.
Yes. And it's again, as I already said with the Lambton, that sounds like a nice little treat, a Lambton. And then a worm, and then what's the guy? And he's just called...
He's John Lambton.
John.
Or I think Janus, Janus, one of the old versions, middle-aged versions of it.
Come on.
Middle-aged.
Scrabbling
from
around.
the olden days.
Scrabbling around there.
There's a carving on Lambton property, or there was in the 19th century, of Lambton there with his spike-head armour and a sword, and a woman with bare breasts and wounds. No, it's just a bit of colour.
Wounds?
Yeah, as if she's been attacked by the worm, and then the worm's there, and he's stabbing it.
Oh, okay.
But like Hollywood, they've thrown in a sexy lady character who isn't in the story, just because, sculpture.
I thought she had because he'd forgotten and she'd given him a hug.
Oh,
no.
That'd be awful.
Because it seems his forgetfulness runs in his family. Right, forgetfulness about very pivotal things.
So you've got
John... You've got an inaccurately named worm.
Yeah.
I'm still just imagining
All right, but look
a big flesh colour. It's going to be white as well because it's just drinking the milky treasure.
It's definitely green from all of the pantomime and drawing versions I've seen of it. But let me give you some of the sweet dialects from the song again. 2 minutes.
Don't sing again.
I'm not going to sing. All right. Hook, Heuk. That means hook.
If your category was
Hjem instead of home,
dyslexia, you'd be doing really well.
He would swallow little bairns alive.
That's quite nice.
He would swallow little bairns alive. Yeah. we've got the word Kai for cow.
These are just words. They're not names.
They're not names. Damn.
John.
Damn your knowledge.
You've got
of grammar.
John, Lambton Worm. That's only 3 different words. One of them's spelt wrong.
I've got to tell you, there's also a well.
That's only one more word, and it's hill. And there's a worm well. Is it?
Well,
right.
Not anymore, it's gone. But there was a worm well.
What's the stone? Does the stone have a name? The stone in the river. Oh, the river was called Weir. That was funny. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. The stone doesn't have a name.
Right.
I think the stone may have been lost.
No.
Kerry Nutman. He did the animation for the...
That's a nice name. Kerry Nutman is a lovely name. Shout out to Kerry Nutman. No. I think this is a 2 because you... And it's not, no. Yeah, it's a 2, and that is being very generous. Because the worm, it's not even spelt with a Y, so it would look interesting written down. You just, imagine that. It's what the episode is going to be called, Lambton Worm.
That's going to bring him in.
Is it?
Yeah, people are going to read that and go, ooh, I wonder how big it is.
Oh, a worm. Great.
All right, 2.
It's got 9 holes. How does that work? Is one of the holes the mouth, and then it's got 4 down the side?
I think it's running the other side down its nose. Don't know.
Is it 9 on each side, or?
I think it's 9 on each side because otherwise it'd be asymmetrical.
But then, that would make it a bit like, it's weird.
Is it going to get me any more points for naming?
No. Numbering.
2 out of 5. There's loads of numbers.
Yeah, there's not. Should have got a number. Maybe you've got a number.
Should I throw in? I haven't got that in my list of categories. Numbering.
I don't think.
9 Kais. He wrapped himself 7 times around the hill.
Yeah, or 9 in some reports. I mean, this is really scoring highly.
All right, the next category. I've got to scrape back. Supernatural, classic traditional category. Supernatural. What do you mean? Are you aware to what an enormous size he grad?
Yeah, but things can be big. Worms.
9 times round a hill big?
Worms can be big. People thought that worms, if you cut them in half, were 2 worms until about 5 years ago.
I think I found out about that last year.
Yeah, only if there wasn't QI, people would still think that if you cut a worm in half, it becomes 2 worms.
Well, you're very.
I'm talking about real worms.
You're very lucky that this worm didn't produce 2 worms when cut in half. It doesn't. Otherwise, we'd have a variety.
A load of Lambton worms.
I'd be scoring even higher for numbering than.
And then it would definitely wouldn't be a dragon. It would just be a worm. Just a big worm.
All right, well, since this doesn't happen, it proves it's a dragon. So, what could be more supernatural? We've got that. We've got a witch.
She's basically, all we know about this witch is she's not very good at singing.
We've got a prophecy. I mean, a curse. I forgot. I forgot what it was. It's a curse.
You got a curse. People can say a lot of stuff, though, can't they?
But also, he brings the whole thing on himself by being such a bad lad. By swearing at the river.
On a Sunday.
On a Sunday. In one of the accounts I've been reading, it's introduced as the sin. It's all a moral story teaching him a lesson through supernatural occurrences.
It's only a 3, though, really, isn't it?
Flipping heck.
Because it's kind of... It's getting into that cryptozoology stuff, which doesn't come across as that supernatural. They're not really... No one does any magic. A curse...
Are you marking me down because you think it might be true? And there could be a giant worm?
It could be... I'm not saying I think it's true. I'm just saying a giant worm isn't...
That drank the milk of 9 cows every day
a giant
and ripped up trees with its tail.
That loved dairy goodness. What was it?
Milky treasure. Which brings... I'm getting a 3 out of 5. Fine. That brings me on to my next category, milk. I've written that with an exclamation mark.
You're quite right.
Milk. It was a fairly milk-obsessed creature.
Yeah, this.
It occasionally ate bairns when they were sleeping.
Yeah, because probably they smell of milk.
Yeah, we see around. It was probably the scent of mother's milk that attracted them.
Same reason cats steal children's souls or whatever it is they're supposed to do.
Yeah, same reason cats steal children's souls.
Yeah, because of their milk. That's probably the bare breasts of the lady that you mentioned. Yep, it was just going after her milk.
Milky.
Her mammary glands. Her mammary delights or whatever. That is the name of my student band. We didn't do well. Back to Milky Delights.
Back to the category. The category milk.
Milk. Yeah, 5. I'm going to give you 5. I can't imagine there being more milk in this story. Like, this story is so obsessed with milk that the characters in this story drink milk even though they know that it's going to anger a giant, albeit worm, but a giant angry worm. Someone definitely, at least once, I'll have a little bit of that milk. When they're dealing, like, they're saving children's lives and stuff by doing it, it's like, well, I do quite like milk. Like, yeah, you're getting 5 out of 5 for milk, definitely.
5 out of 5. And finally, you've been fairly harsh with me. I think you're going to have to score me highly in the category of unarguable famousness. I think you'll agree it's an extremely famous story. Just ask your friend and mine, Brian Ferry.
Yeah, I don't know, because would he reply in song, or would he go, yeah, I've heard of it?
Let's not ask Brian Ferry.
Yeah.
Let's just assume that he's strongly endorsing it.
Well, yeah, definitely. He wanted to bring it to the world, and it's not done well.
Word of it reached as far as Palestine during the Crusades. Otherwise, Lambton wouldn't have heard about it.
Yeah, that was a direct message. That doesn't count.
No, he just heard rumours.
No, I'm sure someone told him.
He would be in Palestine, and one Palestinian would say to another, "Have you heard about that? Because we haven't got any problems here. Have you heard about that giant worm they've got in Washington?" And they say, "DC," and if by that you mean County Durham, yes. Yeah. Ooh, and Lambton said, "What's that you say?"
Sorry, lads.
I happen to be from Washington.
Shut up! Tell me about the worm. No, it's not. Oh! It is arguably not famous.
You've drawn me to your bosom only for me to find you wearing a suit of spike-head spearheads.
Yes, yeah. The Lambton Worm is not that famous. I'm sorry, the Northeast.
What about the panto?
Yeah, what about the panto? That's not the subject of a pantomime.
It's very popular with the kids.
Jack and the Beanstalk.
With an opening... I mean, how many pantos have an opening song which mentions children being eaten alive?
Yeah. Shut up. I'm going to do my panto. No, like, even the budget. Why have you made the main antagonist of this pantomime a worm?
Well, in a lot of the pictures it has 4 legs, so I assume it was like a pantomime horse, but like the bad guy.
That sounds terrifying and inaccurate. So what? Ross Kemp.
Yeah,
he plays
the
Lambton Worm.
No, I'd put him as like Lord Lambton, the guy who at the end.
Okay, so he's old Lord Lambton.
He's knocking on a bit now, Ross Kemp. He's not going to play young Lambton.
No, well, no, he wouldn't, because it's a panto. It'd have to be a girl, wouldn't it? That's the other thing about pantos. If you don't know pantos,
the lead. That's why I mentioned cabaret, because it's sort of cross-dressing, slightly sexy, but it is children's entertainment kind of a way.
And then you got the actor that played Harold Bishop in Neighbours as the Lambton Worm. Kind of a Jabba the Hutt figure. I'm warming to this. How is this out of copyright? Could we stage a production?
Oh, yeah, we can stage a production of it. I don't think we can put Jabba the Hutt in it, but yeah,
a Hutt-esque sort of thing. And then you've got the lady with the wounds as the Princess Leia role in the Golden Bikini.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even a non-speaking role. She doesn't even feature in the story. She's just there and topless. I'm not endorsing that.
Yeah, I think we could do this.
Yeah. So really the fame we're measuring is not just the fame of the story to date. It's the fame of our high-budget Hollywood
pantomime
remake.
Yes.
That will inevitably take the world by storm.
And if we get Ross Kemp on board, Google him, then that will make it. I think, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5.
So after you said that, your face said, and that's all you're getting. 4 out of 5.
And we'll put it on next year. And then it will be unarguably famous.
Yes.
This is Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Lambton... No. Just... Worm. Exclamation mark. With a Y.
Oh, yeah. But instead of selling ice cream at the interval on the trays, it's just milk.
Yeah, it's just
gallons of milk.
9 cows worth of milk. and help yourself, lads. Yeah. Dig in, here's a straw. This tale is for anyone who's ever wondered what goes on inside a boy king's head. It's not what you expect. Prepare yourself, Alasdair. This is a high-octane thrill ride of a story. This has got everything you could want from... I'm just going to tell the story, actually. It's got...
Because you've oversold it at this point.
I think so, yeah, mate. I think
I am prepared for something really intense.
You want everything.
Yes.
It begins, we open in Winchcombe.
Oh, you've lost me.
Yeah.
I'm walking out of the theatre. I've left. I'm in a cab.
It's Saxon times. And Winchcombe is the capital of Winchcombeshire. Yeah, now he's coming back.
I'm back in. Yeah. Whoa. Stop the taxi. I can still hear the unexpected twist.
And this is in the kingdom of Mercia.
I know, I like that.
Yeah, and we're in AD 788.
All right.
King Kenelm, the king of Mercia, founded an abbey. And then a few years later, he died. And he was succeeded by his 7-year-old son, Kenelm. He also had 2 older daughters, Kenulf. We only know the name of the oldest one, Quendreda, which is a great name.
It's quite an evil name.
But we don't know what the middle daughter's name was. We don't know if it was a Ken prefix or just, a made-up series of sounds.
Is Quen the feminine version of Ken?
Oh, maybe. That's a good point. I was trying to think of were there any female names that began with Ken? Made up.
Yeah, speculative research.
Some great research I've not done. So Quendreda, the older sister, she wanted the throne, obviously. She's getting passed over for her 7-year-old brother. That's got to be... I don't have any siblings myself, but I imagine that's quite annoying.
Well, my sister is 2 years younger than me, and when we were children, could run faster than me and beat me at all video games.
Oh.
And that, including one I made. I invented a video game, and then we played it, and she beat me at it. I know how Kenelm feels.
Quendreda.
No, sorry, I know how I've forgotten.
In this scenario, you're Quendreda.
Well, I know how Quendreda feels.
But she didn't try and exact revenge by creating a video game. She persuaded Ascobert, as is a person's name, not a computer game from the 80s. It does sound like it would be.
Yeah, the 8th century version of Ask Jeeves.
Yes. And now Ascobert was Kenelm's tutor. Quendreda persuaded Ascobert to murder Kenelm. Ascobert took Kenelm hunting in the Clent Hills. Let me say that again. The Clent Hills. And they went on this little hunting trip, Ascobert and Kenelm. And Kenelm had a little nap. Come on, he's 7. Probably just had a 8th century version of Ribena and a little lie down. And while he was having his sleep, Ascobert dug the grave for Kenelm.
He's getting ahead of himself there a little bit.
Yeah,
it's hubristic at the very least.
Yeah, my point of view is if you have been tasked with killing a 7-year-old, what you should do when that 7-year-old is asleep is kill that 7-year-old. Not.
I've always said that.
You don't need the prep. So during this hubristic grave digging, Kenelm awoke and said, "This is not the place ordained for you to kill me." And he stuck his staff into the ground and black flowers bloomed from it. And this was meant to be proof.
I know Kenelm's your protagonist, but this is a creepy kid.
It's a bit weird,
That is
isn't
a creepy... It's like, have you seen The Babadook?
Yes.
Like the best thing about that is you wouldn't mind if that kid got killed. Because he's awful.
It's a bit annoying.
Kenelm is a bit of a Babadook kid.
He's saying...
Black flowers bloom. This is not the place ordained. Creepy. Kill that kid.
In one version of the story, it praises him for saying that he was like singing a song or something, taking his death in good spirits. Spoiler alert: Ascobert heeded the words that this was not the place ordained to kill him. Just took him down the road and killed him down there.
Oh right.
Yeah. So that sort of backfired on Kenelm.
I was just growing attached to the creepy little child.
So Ascobert decapitates him and buries the head and the body under a bush. I guess it's a different guy. So that digging of the grave was a waste of time.
He took a second... I would have at least taken them back to the first.
Oh, and also, while he was doing all this, a dove flew out of the base of Kenelm's skull.
That sentence ends in a place it doesn't begin.
Yeah.
Say that again.
So Ascobar has decapitated a 7-year-old and he's put him in a grave and he's filling that grave in, and while he's doing that, a dove flies out of the little boy's head. And the dove flies to Rome to see the... allow me to finish. The dove flies to Rome to see the Pope, and he drops a scroll at the Pope's feet, which... the Pope can't read, because the Pope can't read English. Fortunately, there's an Englishman there. He translates the note for the Pope. The note says, "In Clent cow pasture, under a thorn, of head bereft, lies Kenelm, king-born." So the dove is grassed up Ascobar
with the appropriate authority, a.k.a. the Pope.
The Pope, yeah, the classic crime-solving Pope.
I mean, it really takes a swerve from the moment of the beheading onwards, that story.
It goes from quite realistic sort of family tragedy to crazy.
Can I check? Are you improvising the bit where someone translates it?
No.
That's part of the story.
That's part of the story.
Why would the dove not just have written it in Latin?
How could the magic dove... Yeah, that's like the word... That's what everyone... That's like the Esperanto of the day, Latin. Yeah. Like, everyone could have known Latin. Like, kings and... that sort of people, they probably knew Latin. Yes. That's what the Pope deals in.
Why would if you could write a magic scroll and you're a dove, write it. That is ridiculous. I'm outraged.
Because I was thinking about this. I was thinking that's quite clever of the dove to write of head bereft as like a clue in there. But then I realised, oh no, the dove would have written that down anyway because he's not getting out. Unless the Kenelm's had his head cut off.
I like that both of us have assumed that the dove wrote it.
Is there a little mouse inside with a quill also in the guy's skull? The 7-year-old's skull. Because a 7-year-old's head's not much bigger than a dove.
But I guess that it has only just occurred to me at this point that the dove is probably representative of his soul. Sorry, the look of sadness. Is that the end of the story?
Of course not.
So what does the Pope do?
So the Pope sends orders to Wilfrid, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Wilfrid gets on the 8th century version of the blower telephone, not a telephone, whatever. Probably you'd think carrier pigeon, but now it sounds like that's someone's. He'd have to decapitate someone in order to send one of them. Anyway. However he does it, he gets word to the monks of Winchcombe Abbey, and they start looking for the body of Kenelm. They manage to find the body of Kenelm with the assistance of a white cow.
As a sidekick?
Yeah, he's basically... The cow apparently started mooing at a bush, and...
Well, and that's out of character for a cow. No wonder that caught their attention.
And they were
What's that cow playing at?
Let's have a dig under here. And they dig up the head, the body, and the knife. The Pope, thanks to the classic chain of investigation,
chain of command.
Next down, Archbishop of Canterbury, next down, monks, next down, white cow. I mean, the white cow's the hero in this tale. He's doing the real groundwork.
Yeah, he's the one on the beat who knows the people involved. He can talk their language, or he can moo at appropriate bushes.
So, I guess they thought cow pasture. Who knows cow pasture better than cows? Oh, it hasn't finished.
What?
Yeah, so they take... Oh, there was something about a spring as well. A magic spring comes out when they find the body. Well, either where they found the body a spring comes from, or when the monks had a rest, taking the body back to Winchcombe Abbey, and where they had a rest, a spring came from, and there's a little building there now, apparently, still.
You seem really unimpressed with that part of the story.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't involve birds flying out of people's heads. Translations, which I love, and or detective cows. DSI Moo Man.
I, as the cigar chomping studio exec from the start of this story, am well up for Detective Cow. The rest of it, I can take or leave, frankly. But Detective Cow, yes.
Not even...
Take my money.
You don't want a dove that can write a memo.
That's his secretary.
Yeah, that's true.
And they've got an on-again, off-again, will they, won't they relationship.
Who's bad cop, good cop? Bad dove, good cow. That's your name. Anyway. So the monks transport Kenelm's body back to the abbey. And on the way, evil Quendreda, she's still angry that this has all gone on. Although she seems to kind of be getting away with the thing. But anyway, her just desserts happen because she tries to curse the funeral procession by reading Psalm 108 backwards. Now, Psalm 108 is known as the cursing psalm. In some reports, in some versions of this story...
Yeah, let's be careful about the words we use.
In some versions of the story, it's Psalm 53, which is the atheist psalm. I do wonder why these psalms made it to the final part of the Bible. The cursing psalm and the atheist psalm, they don't seem on brand.
The atheist psalm?
Yeah, because I think it starts with like, he who believed in God is a fool because there is no God, or something like that. Which again, that doesn't seem...
That's really off message.
Yeah. So she tries to read that backwards in order to curse the funeral procession, but her eyes burst and cover the page with blood, and she dies in agony, and she's unable to read anymore because not only has she no eyes, the piece of paper that it's written on is covered in the blood from her no eyes.
I really like the attention to making sure she couldn't read it. That reminds me of, I'm a big fan of...
How can that remind you of something?
Well, that reminds me of another eye-exploding story. Funny thing that happened... Sorry, your cat is sniffing at my teacup. I realise I really need to finish that sentence. The story that reminds me of is I'm a big fan of the history of European fairy tales, and I think it's 17th and maybe 18th century. In the Charles Perrault version of Cinderella, at the end of the story, the ugly sisters, the famous ugly sisters, apologise and they're forgiven by Cinderella, and she gives them each a salon in Prince Charming's castle, which is a really nice ending.
Tanning?
No. Well, no. At this time, these were salon stories. So fancy women would hang out together in their salon, and they would tell one another fairy tales. And Perrault started writing them down, or perhaps he kicked off the telling of them by writing them down.
Right.
100 years later, in the Brothers Grimm, who were German, not French, wrote their version of that story. And in their version, at the wedding, the ugly sisters are there and they're throwing rice. And then doves come and peck out their eyes. Ooh. Which it gives you, I think, a sense of the different attitudes to justice that the German and French peoples have.
Yeah, a nice little salon.
Yeah,
and a business.
Your own salon.
Your own small business.
or an eye pecking out.
No eyes at all. So Kenelm was interred at the abbey, and there was a shrine there which was visited many times throughout the years, and there's miracles and all that sort of stuff. Just listed as some miracles, like that's that. We're not going to go into detail about them. You've had enough from this story excitement. In 1815, the abbey was excavated and they found a coffin with a skeleton of a boy with a long knife beside it. Unfortunately, the bones and the knife turned to dust in contact with the air.
How many... I don't know how many stories we've recorded at this point, but I've heard the phrase "all turn to dust" so many times.
It's a good way of not having to prove your story.
It is, isn't it?
I saw it. Oh, have you got evidence? It turned to dust. Why? Contact with air.
It's very much the folklorist's dog ate my homework.
And so to the scores.
Okay. What are your categories?
Oh, they are legion. They're called legion, for they are many.
Well, what's the first category then?
First category, I'm going to go with supernatural.
You're opening with supernatural. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
It's not normal to have a dove in your head.
No.
I'm not saying that.
As far as we know, because any one of us could have a dove in our heads.
Yes.
Most
people aren't beheaded. So many people's doves just stay in when they die.
When they die, no one thinks to look. Should we have a look inside that skull, see if there's any little bird bones?
I think, yeah, a dove that goes to the Pope.
A dove that goes to the post office.
That would be impressive.
Yeah.
That's supernatural, definitely.
Yeah.
The
head doves.
The staff with the flowering staff.
Yeah.
The creepy child
Annoying children, and unfortunately, they're very real.
Yeah, but there's a certain type of annoying child that belongs to sort of the spooky literature.
Ones that can say the word ordained.
Yeah.
Eesh.
He's creepily spooky, and I'm glad he was murdered.
He was a king, though, so...
Are you saying his gift for language probably wasn't supernatural?
No, he probably had lessons.
Right, well, that'll knock some points off for that. Yeah, I let you walk into that, didn't I?
Really I could feel that I was being led down. It was like I was being taken hunting in Clent Hills before being decapitated, yeah.
So we've got the eyes bursting.
Classic eye burst.
Forth from the face.
Yep.
That's any other supernatural occurrences in the story?
Detective Cow.
And Detective Cow. I think that's a 4. I'm knocking 1 point off because the child may simply have been insufferably pretentious.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4 out of 5.
Okay. Gore.
Occasional visiting category.
Gore.
Well, again, eyes bursting, decapitation. There's a lot of blood there, and the murder of your little brother. That's not. I mean, we're talking about it as if it's fun to murder children, but in reality, that would be horrible.
Getting the teacher as well, the trusted figure.
Is that who Ascobert was his teacher?
He asks Ascobert.
I didn't realise.
So maybe
he's
the guy that's responsible for that annoying, this is not the place ordained for you to kill me. I'm surprised he didn't actually just kill him.
Yeah, exactly.
But he saw a stick, black flowers. So
well, I think it's only a 3 out of 5 for gore.
For gore, we got
one beheaded child and 2 popped eyes. It's not that much. What I want to be clear on, because the thing is, it's because I'm visualising when the dove comes out, I'm visualising it as pure white rather than sodden and red and with the blood of a child's head.
Sort of flicking bits of brains off its wings before it flies off. And just hastily scribbling a note, probably in blood.
Well, if that were the case, it's a 4. But I don't think you have any evidence that the dove didn't come out pure gleaming white, because I don't think it would have been let in to see the Pope. A bloody dove, people would say, "Go away and clean yourself up." Before you get an audience with his Popeness. It must have been less gory, so it's a 3.
That's a shame. Okay, this is perhaps related to supernatural magic animals.
Magic animals. What have you got?
A dove.
A dove.
A dove that can command
heavily on this dove, but okay.
The head dove. And Detective Cow.
Now, was the cow magic, or was it just damn good at his job? That's the question I have for you.
I suppose that's the thing with detective work. It's like you make it look like it's magic, but it's actually he'd probably done a lot of going around having a chat with the squirrels. Because isn't it someone that said any detective work sufficiently advanced should be indistinguishable from magic? Especially if it's done by a cow.
Yeah, I think someone said that.
Just now.
It's been said at least once. I'd wager.
I think this brilliantly Disneyfies the whole story.
How dare you bring Walt Disney into a story involving a child's beheading?
But I think it gives it a little sort of a Cinderella sort of aspect of like, there's a little dove flying out of the kid's head.
But again, imagine you're pitching this to Walt Disney is now the cigar chomping executive. You get to the bit, and then the child is beheaded. He's going to raise an eyebrow there. No amount of doves.
And buried in a shallow grave. Well, we can show that off camera. No, that needs to be on camera because.
Well, I think you have one magical animal
and one animal who is damn good at his job.
So I'm giving you 1 out of 5.
one animal.
Because you could obviously have had 5 magical animals in this story.
That cow was 1 day away from retirement. Okay, this has to work. The category of naming.
Well,
come on.
I can't help but, and I don't think I didn't notice this while you were telling the story. You can't just keep saying Clent with a strong T and hope you're going to convince me that it's...
That's a great name.
It's a good name. Okay, so you got Clent.
Clent Hills.
Kenelm. Quendreda, Ascobert. It's 5 out of 5.
Yes.
No, I thought it wasn't that good, but as I went through the...
Mystery Sister, we can only assume that that's a brilliant name.
But even Mystery Sister sounds like a decent student band.
Why am I giving these names away?
So, I think... any other good names? I mean, I've already scored it, but...
Yes. Wilfrid, the Archbishop of Canterbury. All right, Wilf. All right, Wilf.
It's not that good. I would love to take it down to 4, but I can't because of...
Okay, I'm going to get it back up because in some version of the story, Askobert is called Askbert. It's as simple as that. The Columbo factor. One last thing, Alasdair.
Sorry. All right. Yes.
The Columbo factor.
Yeah, because we know who did it, and then the story is just watching that person get caught. So
Yes.
like in Columbo. So yes. You've made your case.
Are there any Columbos that don't finish with the criminal's eyes bursting?
I think every single
over a
one.
hymn book.
Yeah, most of them. Most of them do. I mean, I guess that's why he wore that waterproof coat. Yeah. Because of constant eye juice.
Oh, he had a bad eye. We don't know if it burst. Probably not.
We don't know about the background of that. Presumably someone was reading the Atheist's Psalm. Yeah. But he was standing at an angle. It's really unfair for us to bring Peter Falk's missing eye into...
A story with exploding eyes. I'm trying to get points. The Columbo factor.
All right, no, you're right. Yeah. That's
poorly eyes.
It may be inconsiderate of you, but
you'd think it would
worth
get
an extra
half a point.
Well, we don't do half points.
No, I know. It's Columbo. We got the Pope.
Oh yeah, the Pope.
DSI Pope.
Yeah,
the cigar chomping Pope shouting out, "Oh, Wilfred, get in here! I'm gonna take your minor, your silly hats on the line." Find out where Kenelm is. Find out which cow field in Clent Hills this beheaded 7-year-old is. And then he's like, "The Pope's busting my ear. Monks, you gotta help me out." And then the monks go out, I'm imagining Keystone Cop style, and then...
sort of blowing a whistle, waving their monk staff.
Trying to get into a cart and falling out of that cart and all sorts of stuff. And then, again, one day away from retirement, Detective Cow. They think, this guy's put out your pasture. He's... Actually, that's quite an insult to cows, isn't it? That's their day-to-day. They must be like, well, have a little bit more thought when you use these phrases.
It's 5 out of 5 for the Columbo factor.
Yes!
Your short parody of all detective drama has convinced me.
You have been listening to Loremen. The Loremen are Alasdair Beckett-King
And James Shakeshaft.
The Loremen will return later this year with Series 2, telling tales of folklore from the British Isles and beyond. If you have a local legend you'd like us to investigate, tweet us at LoremenPod or email contact@loremenpodcast.com. Loremen is spelled L-O-R-E-men. It's wordplay. If you enjoyed Series 1 of Loremen, please do rate and subscribe. Maybe write us a review.
And if you didn't enjoy Loremen Series 1, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Still rolling.
Good. And I'm Alasdair's Batman and Robin, James Shakeshaft. And I'm Alasdair's Man Friday and Girl Tuesdays, James Shakeshaft. And I'm Alasdair's Mars Bar and Milkshake, James Shakeshaft. These are sounding more sexual than I'd intended.